have space for this thing. So you need to create space for this inventory.
Yeah.
So what inventory planning, other than that, for example, you know that sales it's going to be 1,000 units, whereas your production facility, it can only make up to 800 units, or the number of workers that you have, they can only make up to 800 units. Then you need to adjust these resources accordingly. That sales is going to be more, we forecast that it's going to the good is going to sell a lot, so I need to have people or factors of production in place so that I produce these things as well, so I do not miss this sales opportunity.
Mm.
It could be other way around as well. For example, I had resources for producing 2000 units and I produced 2000 units, whereas the sales forecast it told me that I could have sold only 1,000 units.
Yeah.
Then this additional capacity which I had invested in, it would just go to waste, or I would just build on inventory, which would then lead me to the
Yeah.
disadvantages of holding too much inventory. So to avoid these situations, we do sales forecasting. Okay, the next thing is, how do we do sales forecasting? So the time series analysis that we have to study, involves a few steps. I don't know if you have covered this at your school or how much you already know about it, but let's see. So we have to do time series analysis. Mm, okay. The first thing is that this time series analysis, it helps me identify the trend in the sales. So for example, here it gives me data for years 2006, 2007, 2008, 9, 10. Can you identify any trend in all these years of data that's given? So the trend, it tells me whether the sales it's going to increase, it's going to decrease, or it's going to stay constant. Okay, so from this particular data I can see that from 2006 to 2007 the sale increased, then it stayed constant, then it increased, then it went down, then it increased, then it increased, then it increased. So most of the years I've got an increase in sales, whereas in just one of them I had constant sale, and in just one of them I had a decrease in sales. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing that we have to do is that we calculate a moving average. How do we calculate a moving average? So, for example, this is in tabular form, data given from year what to what year 2006 to 2015. So, for first 4 years, what's the moving average or moving total? Uh,
534. 5.
how do you get it? 125 plus
Add
130 plus
all of them.
130
What by
plus
5?
150 plus 140. Then you can do it for this year over here as well. So you will do, how will you calculate for this one? You will have 130 plus 130 plus 150 plus 140. What would be this value?
130 plus 150 plus 140
Hmm.
plus.
130 plus 130 plus 150 plus 140.
Is that the
This is for
four
year
year?
2007 to 2010.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Uh, in fact, I will show you a better one. There is a better example given in Cambridge's book. This one is a bit confusing. One second. Let me show you from the book of Cambridge. Cambridge A level business. A level business. And I'll tell you the discrepancy in this one as well. once we have seen it from over there.
Mm.
Sales forecasting was which chapter? It was marketing? No. Operation, project management. It wasn't finance. It was A levels, A levels. Marketing planning 318. Let's see. 318. Hmm. So here is this chart. So this is sales revenue given quarter to quarter for a number of years.
Yeah.
Okay. So the way you calculate the total for first four quarters is you do quarter one, two, three, four.
Mm.
Add these four and you get 580.
Yeah.
Then for the next quarter, to get total for these four quarters, you'll have to skip the first one of the first year and instead add this quarter one from year 12.
Yeah.
Okay. So this gives you 590. So this is four quarters total. This is also four quarters total. You add these two, you get 8 quarters total.
Mm.
This is 1170. Then you divide this 1170 with 8 to get quarterly average. If you want to take a screenshot of this one
Yeah.
and save it so that refer it later on as well. I'll repeat it. So for one, do you have your calculator with you?
Yeah.
So 120 plus 140 plus 190 plus 130, you'll get this 580.
Yeah.
Then we miss the first one, and then we do quarter 2, 3, 4, and 1. Because this
Yeah.
is 4 quarter moving total. So each
Mm.
next quarter, I miss one previous quarter and add another quarter for the next year. So for
Yeah.
this third one, I will miss both this 1 and 2. I will instead do
Yeah.
3, 4, 1, and 2, and so on. So this way I got this for first 4 quarters and this for next 4 quarters. And if I add these two, I will get 8 quarters total.
Mm.
I divide this with 8, I will
Because
get
8 years.
8 quarters. We are moving in quarters over here.
Oh, eight quarters.
All right, 3 months. Okay, so I divide this with 8, I get quarterly average. All right, and this quarterly average, since it's for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, so I write it in front of the middle one, this third one over here, this
Yeah.
146. Okay, then I say quarterly average is 146. How much is this quarterly average different from sales revenue of third quarter in actual?
Mm.
I get 146.25.
Yeah.
Okay, then I do this for remaining quarters as well. So once I've got quarterly moving average for all of them, this is trend that for 8 months, I mean previous three, next three, current, these 8 months, trend is that in this particular period sales would be
Increasing.
146.25. In this particular period sales would be 150. So what I do next is that I say that in quarter 3, or roughly the seasonal variation, the variation of this moving trend from actual is 43.75. 190 minus 146.75. So sales revenue, actual sales revenue minus quarterly moving average is seasonal variation. Sales revenue minus quarterly moving average is sales variation.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then for this is which particular quarter? This is for quarter 3. I got one for this seasonal variation
So
43.75.
120 minus 146.
190 minus 146.25. 190
Why 190?
because this quarterly moving average we wrote in front of the middle one, because this was for 8 quarters, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So from this to this, it was a sum from this to this. and the middle one is 3.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we wrote in front of the middle one
Okay, okay.
and subtract this 190, this 146.25 from 190 from the middle one, you get 43.75. This time in quarter 3, you got a seasonal variation of 43.75. Quarter three's sales is 143.75 more than the average or the trend. From what's the trend? Quarter three's sale is more than 43.75. Did you get it?
Can you repeat?
Quarter three's actual sales.
Yeah,
Quarter three's actual sales is more than by 43.75. More than what? More than the average or more than the trend. So
yeah.
the trend for first 5 quarters is that you get a sales of 146.25. Whereas in quarter 3, you will actually get more than that. The variation in quarter 3 is that it's more than 43.75. More than what? More than the moving average, more than the trend.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, and then the last thing is that you do seasonal variation, sorry, average variation. So this time in quarter 3, the variation was 43.75. In next year quarter 3, variation was 52.5. In next year quarter 3, it was 58.75.
Yeah,
So I think that's it. So do an average 43.75 plus 52.5 plus 58.75.
53.75 plus.
43.75 plus 52.5 plus 58.75
155.
and divided with 3.
51.6.
So in quarter 3, average variation is 51.67.
Mm.
53.67 more than the quarterly moving. So in the third quarter, you can have two values. One value is the actual sales of third quarter, and the other value is what does the trend say that the value of sales should be in third quarter. So whatever the trend says that the value of third quarter is this much, the actual sales we have seen the average, it is 51.67 more than whatever the trend says the sales should be.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is how you use. It's a bit tricky, but this is how you use uh, this moving average for calculating sales. There are a number of other methods as well. There are a number of other methods. Have they used just this one or 8 year moving total? So this is your 8 year moving total, and okay, the way they have done this is you calculate the first 4 years total, and then you calculate next 4 years total. Then you add these two, you get 8 years total, and then you divide this 8 years total with 8. So you get average. They have said
Wait,
it, they have said over here
you,
moving total, but they haven't actually done moving total. They have used
yeah,
first four,
because,
because
yeah,
had they used moving total, then they
they
should
do
have used
120,
this.
130 plus 130 plus
Hmm,
150. Yes.
they should have used this 130, 130, 150, 140.
Yeah,
This is what would
then
have meant
stick to.
moving total. But
Yeah,
anyhow, if they, I mean, if it's in US syllabus, it's like this, then we'll follow this. Otherwise, I've shown you how it's done. So the way they've done it, they did it for first 4 years, they added it. The next 4 years, they've added it. And by the way, if you look at for this 2011,
yeah.
they've done it that way. So for 2011, 4 years total. This okay. This 535, they've erroneously written it over there. They should have written it over here. This
But it
530,
is a four.
hmm,
It's a moving average.
it's a moving average, but again, quickly in your calculator check 140 plus 155
140 plus 155.
plus 180 plus
180.
190.
665.
Hmm. No, these arrows are misleading. So just see that this 535 is written over here and then add 130 plus 130 plus 150 plus 140.
550. Yeah, it's
550.
moving average.
It's moving average. It's moving total. As of
Mm,
now, it's moving total. And then they've added the first two, first 4 years moving total, then next 4 years moving total, and written over here in the middle. So it's 8 years moving total.
yeah.
And 8 years moving total divided by 8, it gives you trend.
Mm,
What's the trend of sales based on 8 years data? What does 8 years average tell you that your
yeah.
sales would be? And if you calculate this value of trend for various periods, then you can draw this trend line.
Yeah.
Okay. So have they repeated the same over here, or this is different data? This is different data for another business, and for this one, what have they done? Have they used it somewhere? Have they drawn this? Consider the business represented in table 7. Okay, this business. Okay, so what you can do is, for example, you have got this business over here. Then you draw this trend line.
Mm,
Okay, and then based on this trend line, you draw. What do you draw? You draw. You can extrapolate it. You can say if this line were to continue ahead, if we were to continue this line in future, what would
mm,
it look like? Do you get
yeah.
it? So for
Yeah.
example, this data is up till 2015.
Yeah.
If and this trend line is up till 2013. If you want to, for example, you have data till 2013 and you want to predict the sales in 2016, you have drawn this trend line, you just extend it in future
Yeah.
and see where it intersects the x-axis and where it
Yeah.
points to the y-axis, and you will have the trend line. The other thing I've also told you, that variations, how do you calculate? So variation, you take actual sales minus trend. Actual sales minus trend is variation.
Yeah.
Okay, so over here variation each year 600 minus 525. Actual sales is more, so variation is positive. The trend says that your sales should have been 525. Your actual sales is more, so there is positive variation.
Yeah.
Here the trend says that your sales should have been 593. Your actual sales is 550, so it's negative. Variation is
Yeah.
negative. Okay, this then 4 years moving average. Okay, they haven't given you moving total. They have directly calculated moving average. Moving average is the trend, and they've calculated the difference between the actual sales and the trend the same way. This chart, I think the this other book, this Cambridge book that I show you, it shows all these things together in one place, whereas in your book it's given bit by bit, so it gets a bit
Yeah.
confusing. Okay, so uh, 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 hmm, 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 hmm. There is this correlation and then there is qualitative forecasting. All right, all right, all right. What are the limits of this sales analysis or sales forecasting if we go by this way? What are the shortcomings in this analysis?
Uh, it needs to be updated very often.
All right. So the first thing is that uh, yes, it needs to be updated often. What would, if you don't update it, what would happen?
Um,
So see, if you,
inflation.
let's say a person who has performed well in one test, and based on just one test score, you say that this person is a genius. Is that a good prediction to make?
No.
Then let's say this person has performed 10 tests, and
Yeah.
based on those 10 tests score, you say the you make an assessment about this person. This assessment is going to be better than what you made the assessment based on just one test.
Yeah.
So the more the data that is available to you, the better your analysis would be.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing a trend analysis over here. It depends on how much data you have, and obviously for businesses which have just started, they will not have a lot of past data of their sales. Also, the businesses which have not been documenting or keeping their records well, they won't be able to make use of this analysis. Okay, what else?
Uh, can only be calculated to short time,
It can only be, why?
like only a few months or a few years.
I mean, why? I don't get the reason. You have made a statement that it should be this way, but I don't get the why behind it. Why should it be what you're saying?
Uh,
Another problem with this thing is that it's based on past. And obviously, I mean, a thing repeating often, we can predict that it will happen again. And this is what all this model is built on. But there is no guarantee that what's happened in the past will continue to happen in the future as well.
yeah.
All right, so it's based on past. That's a limitation, that what's the guarantee that we'll have the same procedures or the same reputation of the data in future as well? Any other thing?
Um,
The thing is that
so
we are using only the quantitative analysis, just the number. We are not taking into account, we are not taking into
external
account
factors.
the external or qualitative factors. So, for example, what's the, I mean, you're saying just because I've sold this much on past, this is the best fit line, and it says that I'm going to sell this much. Has your brand value appreciated or depreciated? Are you going to launch a new product which would change the dynamics? Is a new competitor going to enter or leave the market? Is there going to be a supply crunch which would make you change pricing of your product, which would thereby affect demand of the product? So all these quality, I mean, price and demand, it's again quantitative. But advertisement sentiments about your product, competitors entering or leaving the market, government regulation affecting the business, environmental regulations, some trade barriers, some political issue of one country with another, all those things, they haven't been built into this model.
Yeah.
All right. We have got line of best fit. We have got line of best fit. Uh, Another thing we do is correlation. So with correlation, the concept is simple. For example, you say that there is a correlation between uh, how low the temperature is. So for example, temperature and total coffee consumed.
Mm.
Okay, so let's say there is a negative correlation. The lower the temperature, the more the coffee is consumed, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. There could be a direct correlation as well. For example, in case number of hours of study or hours of study and test score. Okay, so the more you study,
The higher
x
the scores are.
y is directly proportional to x. All right. So in case of correlation, there are a few things to understand. First of all, we have to see, is there a correlation or not? for a few things there is a correlation, for a few things there is no correlation. For example, there would be no correlation in between the time in between the, for example, number of breads that you consume in a particular month, or the temperature and the temperature. So no matter the temperature is high or low, let's say you keep on consuming the same amount of bread, or the number of hours you study and the temperature outside.
Yeah.
No matter what the temperature outside, you keep on studying the same hours, so there would be no correlation.
Mm.
But once we establish that there is correlation, then for correlation, we'll see the formula, we'll get the values either as positive or negative. So positive correlation means that if one variable increases, other also increases. Y increases when X increases. And negative correlation means when X increases, Y
Y
decreases.
decreases.
That is negative correlation. The third thing about this to check is, what is the degree of correlation? There might be a positive correlation between two things, but a very weak one.
Yeah.
And there might be a negative correlation between two things, but very weak one. So if we get a value of correlation, I think less than 0.5, I'll check and confirm. But if value of correlation is less than 0.5, it's weak. If it's more than 0.5, it's a strong correlation. And if it's 0, then there is no correlation, and if it's 1, then they are perfectly correlated. All right.
Yeah.
um this, then what else have we got in correlation? In correlation, do you have your book open with you?
Yeah.
On page 75 you have got this data. So the formula for correlation is R is equal to sigma xy divided by under root sigma x squared and sigma y squared. So there are two variables over here, for example, advertising expenditure and sales. So we want to check whether change in advertisement expenditure, does it have any impact on sales or not. Okay, so you will have to calculate from this x and y, you will then have to calculate x squared. So x squared, this column is simply square of this column of x. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 1.5 squared 2.25, and so on, right?
Wait, what page?
Page 75, page 67 of your book. Let me put it over
67.
here. Let's see over here. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the formula. R is equal to sigma xy by under root sigma x squared times sigma y squared. So the two variables over here are uh, advertising expenditure and sales. Okay, for maths and for graphs, what we usually do is we take x on x-axis, we take the variable which is independent,
Mm.
and y is the dependent variable. All right,
Yeah.
x is independent. Sales might be dependent on how much advertising expenditure that you've done, but advertisement expenditure, it has no effect on what your sales is.
Yeah.
All right. So advertisement expenditure, advertising expenditure, that is the independent variable, whereas sales is the dependent variable.
Yeah.
So you have got all these values for these different periods where you carried out this much advertising expenditure, and as a result, you got this much sales.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what you have to calculate is x squared first, because here you have to do sigma x squared. Do sigma x squared, you have to do x squared first. So 1, this column, this particular column, it's just square of this column. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 1.5 squared is 2.25, 2.5 squared is 6.25, and so on. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, once you have got all these x squared, you sum them. Sigma means sum. So you take sum of this x squared, you get it 81.93.
Yeah.
Just hold on to it. Then you have got this y column, you take y squared. So 3.2 whole squared is 10.24, 4.5 squared is 20.25, 1.8 squared is 3.24, and so on. You calculate the square for all these values of y, and then you sum them so that you get sigma y squared is equal to 173.18. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So once you have got this as well, then you do xy. So 1 into 3.2 is 3.2, 2 into 4.5 is 9, 3 into 1.8 is 5.4, 4 into 3 is 12, and so on. So you multiply x and y. So in this column, you're simply noting down product of x and y. And eventually, once you have got all the values, you add them over here at the bottom to get sigma xy. Got it? Then xy are multiplying. In this particular column, x and y, advertisement expenditure and sales, they are multiplying. So we are noting down their product over here in this column. And once we have noted it down for all the periods, then we simply do a sum of all of it. Okay. So then you get the answer as plus 0.86. So plus means there is a positive correlation, meaning if you increase the advertisement expenditure, the sales increases. All right. And 0.86, it shows that it's a correlation. 0 means there is no correlation. Negative means that there is negative relationship. One increases, the other decreases. Huh. Zero more than 0.5 means it's a strong one. All right. So they are strongly correlated. In your book, I think they haven't given whether to calculate for strong or weak, but that is how it is. Let me quickly do a check. I'm saying that it's for strong correlation is more than 0.5. Let me check if it's more than 0.5 or more than 1. Strong correlation. Hmm. Relationship between two variables generally considered strong when the value is more than 0.7. Hmm. Why did I remember it as weak? Anyhow, strong correlation is more than 0.7. All right. So for positive correlation, you will have an upward sloping line. For negative correlation, you will have a downward sloping line. So when unemployment decreases, the number of sofas sold increases, right? So this is a normal good or inferior good? Normal good. Because when unemployment is decreasing, incomes of people are increasing. Incomes increasing, goods sales increasing, income increasing, sales increasing. So this is normal good. All right. This one over here, in this particular data, you can't see any trend. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hmm. Okay. Okay. Is it better now? Okay. So in the first one, I said when there is a positive correlation, we see an upward trend line. When there is a negative correlation, we see a downward trend line. And when there is no correlation, we cannot really plot a trend line. Okay. uh, so with quantitative forecasting, this all the forecasting that we have studied right now, this is quantitative forecasting. Along with quantitative forecasting, we should do qualitative forecasting. Qualitative forecasting is sometimes we may rely on it when we do not have enough numerical data. Otherwise it could be just to add value to your quantitative forecasting. You might do qualitative forecasting, but the thing is that for these qualitative factors, it is difficult to put a number on things. For example, you say this is your goodwill or this is your brand value. You can have it audited by an external auditor, or he may tell you, but again, he would just give you an estimate. They won't be able to give you concrete numbers, and if ever they give you concrete numbers, they'd always mention those with a disclaimer. मेरी अभी 9 तक है, फिर 9 से 10 है आगे क्यों? चले मैं बात कर लेता हूँ, क्लास के बाद बात कर लेता हूँ। थैंक यू। ऑल राइट, wraps up this wraps up the topic of sales forecasting. The next thing that we have is investment appraisal. So investment appraisal, what's investment appraisal? Investment appraisal is the techniques that we use to analyze whether an investment opportunity is good or bad for me. Okay, so there are different techniques which give me different sort of information about same investment. So the most simple of these investment appraisal techniques is payback period. So payback period simply tells me if I'm going to invest in a project, in how much time will I get all my investment back. Okay, so in this particular chart or data that's given over here, so initially, usually the time, oh not usually, always in these investment appraisal techniques, whenever we are starting the project, that is year zero. And most of these techniques at your level, the data that we're showing is that at year zero all cash outflow is happening, and in successive periods we keep on getting cash inflow. In Whereas in reality you might be able to, I mean, easily understand this thing, that it's not necessary that all the cash flow it happens at start of the project. It can keep on happening during the project till the very last day as well. All right. Okay, so anyhow, coming back to this payback method technique, so over here we are told that at year zero there is 500 cash outflow, then at year 1 there is 100 cash inflow, at year 2 there is 125 cash inflow, year 3 125, 150 and 150. So uh, you get what? Uh, at cumulative cash flow to calculate at year 0 you have got negative 500. Then at end of year 1 this negative 500 plus 100 you get negative 400. And then at end of year 2 this 125 plus 400 plus this minus 400, negative 275. Then you have my 125, then 150, and at this particular, at end of year 4 it becomes 0. I showed you an actual example where the cash flow it became 0 in between. Hmm. So this table, can you calculate, did you calculate cash payback method for this one? Let's quickly do for a couple of these. So you have your book open with you. For project A, just give me cash outflow or inflow at end of each year. Just the cash flow. Year 0 is minus 17. Minus 70? Yeah, 70. Okay, then year 1? 10. Positive 10. Okay, year 2? Year 2, 10. 10. Year 3? 20. 20. Year 4? 20 again. 20. Year 5? 30. 30. Year 6? 40. 40. Let's see. Expected net cash flow is 60. Expected net cash flow is, all right, this is just the sum of all of this. Expected net cash flow would be sum of all of this, so that would become, how much is it saying? Expected 60. 60. Okay, let's see. For this we have cash flow and we will need cumulative cash flow. So at the end of year 0 cumulative cash flow is negative 70, then it becomes 60, then it becomes 50, then it becomes 30, then it becomes 10, and then it becomes, sorry, negative. These are all negative. And then it becomes positive 20. So I know that payback period is in between 4 years and 5 years, right? So 4 years complete, and the number of time it takes in 5 years is, I take this value, the last negative cash outflow, I mean the last negative cumulative flow, and I divide it over next year's total inflow. So 10 over 30. If I want it in number of months, I will have to multiply with 12. So it will become 12 by 3, which is 4 months. Alright. So the cash payback period would be 4 years, 4 months. Okay. Hmm. So if for this particular project, the way cash flow would happen at the end of 4 years, 4 months, I would have got back all the money that I invested in this project at start of the project. Okay, so I will get all this money back. The way we use payback period is, we usually uh, choose the project, or we usually prefer the projects with shorter payback periods. Okay, did I give you the advantages and disadvantages? I guess we covered this in the trial class. Do you remember the trial class? This topic, investment appraisal. And did I give you or did we do this for a particular test of yours? Anyhow, I remember having done this topic once before with you. All right, all right. So we have got this. Could you quickly do it for project B? I mean, the answer is given over here, but let's see if you are able to get this answer or not. And the data, the way it could be given in your question is, you, if it's given in a difficult form, you'll be given just the cash outflows, and if they want to make things easy for you, along with these cash flows, they might give these cumulative cash flow with you. If cumulative cash flow is also given, you just need the cumulative cash flow in the period it was negative, the last negative period and the first positive period. You just need these two, multiply by 12, so you get it in terms of months. But if they ask you to calculate it in number of days, then you multiply it with 365. Okay, so if this data was given to you, again here it's given, so minus 70 plus 20 is minus 50, then minus 50 plus 20 is minus 30, minus 30 plus 20 is minus 10, minus 10 plus 20 is positive 10. So it becomes positive in year 4. So payback period is year 3 plus something. Okay, year 3 plus how much? I do last negative divided by uh, positive. In the year it becomes positive, total cash flow, cash inflow in the year it becomes positive. So minus 10 by, or 10 by 20, which is half. So halfway during year 4, I would have had my project payback completed. Okay, this here is the formula. Advantages of payback period. Okay, quickly, if you could tell me what are the advantages and disadvantages of payback period. Hmm. Hmm. What else? It's easy for to it's easy to explain to non-financial people. People who are not associated with financial background, they can quickly understand this thing. What else? Hmm. Can you see this on the screen? Could you give it a quick read and maybe take a screenshot as well, and you can copy it down after the class? Hmm. Each book has got its own advantage. There they have given you just the advantages, but we know when we have to, for example, discuss any particular method in our exam, we have to not only give the advantages but also disadvantages. Hmm. Take a screenshot, give it a quick read, and then we'll call it a day for today. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll resume from the next method. Screen out projects, I mean projects which you can say that I'm not going to pursue, that you can discard, let's say, or not pursue any further. For example, it could be that the money that you want to invest is available for only for a short period of time, and then it will get invested elsewhere. So, for example, you got a grant from the government, or you got a grant from a donor, or the bank, it gave you the bank loan that you received was in a certain way, so that there is a lag in between the time you receive the money and the time you actually have to spend it. So, money is going to sit idle for that point of time, and in this short period of time you're looking for projects that in which you can invest money for only a short period of time. So you will be looking for projects with short payback periods. Disadvantage has been done. All right. Hmm, hmm. Uh, do note them down somewhere at least once. So I mean it helps memorizing things once you have noted them down.